Hello, I'm Patricio Espinosa in San Antonio. Students from Texas State University San Marcos National Association of Hispanic Journalists Student Chapter have prepared a series of special reports about La Marcha, the March of César Chávez. We begin in Spanish, appropriately so, with a student reporter, Laura Coria.
A gritos de sí se puede y a paso firme, la multitud parecía vivir y compartir esa misma pasión de justicia y igualdad que empezó con César Chávez.
Nos impactó a nosotros, a mí, porque andaba con él en el picket line, en las protestas, en las marchas, en lo que fuera. Andábamos con César, íbamos con César, mis bebitos, mis hijos y mi esposo.
Ya tenemos como 8 años que venimos a marchar aquí a esta marcha, que es muy importante porque es una historia que nos dejó César Chávez, las injusticias que pasan con los trabajadores, y es una marcha que todos debíamos de marchar.
In the non-violent struggle for justice, to be a man is to suffer for others.
Esta marcha en San Antonio representa el 43 aniversario de cuando Chávez caminó más de 350 millas en California en 1966 en favor de los derechos de los campesinos.
Yo marché con César Chávez, yo me fui en huelgas de hambre con César Chávez. Yo conocí a César muy joven. Él era un hombre que pertenecía a la Unión, fundó la Unión de los Campesinos. Yo también era miembro del movimiento laboral.
¡Viva César Chávez!
Y ese para muchos aquí es el legado de César Chávez, algo que se vive en estas demostraciones, como la marcha de hoy, que conmemoran la lucha y la herencia del líder laboral.
16 años han transcurrido desde la muerte de César Chávez. Y a pesar de eso se siente y se vive la pasión y la fervor de la gente que está marchando hoy aquí en San Antonio, Texas, demostrando el sueño que siempre tuvo César Chávez, que fue unidos sí se puede. Desde San Antonio, Texas, Laura Coria.
And marches like this take place not only here in San Antonio, but also across Texas and the nation. The question is, why are they still doing it more than 40 years later? Student reporter Andy Sevilla walked along the way.
Hundreds of people from all walks of life poured into the 13th annual César Chávez March, speaking on what it means to them.
This march means a lot to me in memory of my grandfather also, because he was also in that same trace as a migrant worker.
Throughout the years, Roque Reséndez has made his way to several of the César Chávez Justice Marches to commemorate, he says, the efforts that broke so many chains.
He broke the liberty of giving the farmers a raise, because for many years, as my grandfather told me, they used to work for 75 cents an hour.
I used to be a farm worker myself in my younger age, so I know what they went through, and we're part of them, and as long as we live, we support the César Chávez.
But for others, higher wages was not the lone focus in joining the march.
This is the second year in a row that we've come to the César Chávez March as parents for a very specific reason, and that is the closure of our inner city schools. Our school district has imposed a long-term plan to shut down our inner city schools and overcrowd the remaining schools.
Education was among the many needs Chávez advocated, and several are following in his steps.
It's very important to continue his legacy. It's important for younger generations of Americans and people across the world to understand his contribution, and more importantly, the principles that he stood for, of equality of opportunity, of caring for everyone in our society.
This, to many, is perhaps the legacy Chávez left behind and today remains alive.
It makes me feel so powerful to be here with all my brothers and sisters that belong to the César Chávez.
Regardless of where they came from or why they're here, people are united under César Chávez's legacy of equality and civil rights. Reporting from San Antonio, Texas, Andy Sevilla.
And we're back in San Antonio, Texas, at the heart of the Mexican-American community, San Antonio's West Side. And precisely at the heart of César Chávez March, there was one very special person always marching by his side, his wife Helen. A student reporter, Audrey Cuellar, has the story.
You know, I didn't cross the border, the border crossed me.
This, one of the many thoughts that inspired many people today on the streets of downtown San Antonio. 15,000 marching in commemoration of César Chávez Day. Among them, many women who say they have too made a difference.
It doesn't matter if it's one person or a whole group like us, to join together, it makes a difference.
To others, Cesar Chavez Day means sharing how he has inspired them to start up organizations of their own. Petra Mata is one of the leading members of an organization called Fuerza Unida. Her mission to bring awareness not just to all farm workers, but to women who work in the fields.
We deserve respect because we are mother. Mujeres, podemos tener hijos, podemos crear nuestros hijos, podemos budget nuestra familia y nuestra casa. Entonces, I think we feel the more respect. And then nobody's going to give you this space. We had to get it. And that's what we've been doing. Fuerza Unida.
Hundreds of people came together today in San Antonio to listen to the message of Cesar Chavez, which entails pride, community, and keeping up the fight. And it is that fight that Esther Naranjo, close friend of Cesar Chavez, continues. She holds her pride high when speaking up for women. She knew Cesar Chavez on such a personal level that she believes he couldn't have done what he did without the help of his partner.
He didn't do it by himself. He had his wife Helen. Helen was the person that was behind him. She raised the children. She fed the children. She worked in the fields because Cesar was campaigning. Cesar was out of the state. Cesar was in Europe. Can you imagine? Cesar was everywhere. So who was at home? Helen. Helen deserves so much credit.
Today, women are not only taking care of their families and being supportive, they too have joined the march, giving recognition to Cesar Chavez and his devotee, Helen, bringing the drive to older women and inspiring young women to make a difference in their communities with their families along their side. In San Antonio, Audrey Cuellar reporting.
It has been more than 40 years since the Cesar Chavez movement began. We conclude this series of special reports from student reporters from Texas State University San Marcos with Siren Fuentes, who tell us why today the vibrant sounds of Si Se Puede continue.
We're here in San Antonio, Texas, covering the Cesar Chavez March. There is no better way to find out the history of this march than from hearing it from the founders themselves.
Yes, we can.
The first march, as I recall, we used to meet at this little restaurant over there by, if I'm not mistaken, it's Zamora, and it was just a group of us that started gathering, and this is the dream of Jaime Martinez, who was very inspirational to all of us in getting together and wanting to pay tribute to Cesar Chavez.
His legacy is alive and well. Here in the barrio of San Antonio, as you can see, Cesar said one time, when we are truly honest with ourselves, we must admit that our life is all that really belongs to us. So it is how we use our life that determines what kind of men we are.
Others like Pat de la Cruz, who are marching for the first time, have a different historical perspective.
Hopefully, in retrospect, I'll look back at it and see that my presence here and the presence of other people make a difference in the lives of other human beings around the world and in our country.
And making a difference in people's lives still is a main concern to those who march today. 13 years later, the spirit of Cesar Chavez seems has not dwindled in the fight for the rights of all workers.
For immigrants, for education, for health care, for people from all walks of life.
It's been more than 40 years since the Cesar Chavez movement began, but today in the streets of San Antonio, Si Se Puede still resounds as loud and as meaningful as it did back then. Si se puede! Si se puede! Siren Fuentes reporting.
A 1403 student would be an individual who is an undocumented citizen who has attended high school in the state of Texas for the last 3 years and has chosen to attend college, and so they are benefited by the state legislation the opportunity to get charged in-state tuition and receive Texas aid. They are not eligible to receive federal aid.
I was brought to the U.S. when I was 6 years old. At that point, my parents were already in the States. They came to the States before I turned 2 years old. And I didn't really know them, so I lived with my aunt. And like one day, they just told me, you're going to the U.S., and I had no option. They just say you're going, and I left.
My experience with legislation related to undocumented citizens is that it is a reoccurring issue every 2 years. There seems to be a history of legislation that's introduced and is aimed at limiting options for these particular students.
I'm the first one in my family. I'm the oldest of 4. And I'm the first one to graduate high school and to attend college and hopefully graduate college within the next couple months. It's really, really important to us, and I'm always encouraging my siblings to do their best. They are in the top classes in their school, and I always tell them, you need to do this, you need to become someone in your life. This is something really important, and this is the reason why you're here. This is the reason why your parents risked their lives for you to obtain something they didn't have the opportunity to do.
My name is Lisa McWilliams, and I'm the Executive Director and founder of the Mobile Film School. Our mission is to travel to rural and underserved communities and bring filmmaking to those communities that don't have access to filmmaking or don't feel they have access to filmmaking. And we bring working professionals with us so that we teach less of an academic style, but more of a practical style of teaching. And even if these students don't become filmmakers, we've asked them to tell a story about their community, which re-engages them in their community in a whole new way.
Here we were put into positions where we had to learn straight off from what we had, and we didn't just get to have a little booklet that had instructions telling us what to do. And with a mentor standing over us, giving us advice, I think that helped us a lot more because then it sank in more. We were actually getting human feedback.
We had no idea that we would be working that hard for that many hours out of the day. At first we were like, oh yay, we get to get out of school. But then we got in there, we were like, oh, this is worse than school. It was a lot of hard work, but in the end I had a lot of fun.
They just basically gave us the cameras, gave us everything, and said, figure it out, have fun. And I don't know, that was really enjoyable, messing around with the equipment, figuring out what was right and what was wrong.
My best learning experiences were through mentorships and immersion. For instance, when we worked with these students here in Luling, we had 8 days, Saturday to Saturday, but in those 8 days we clocked in 100 hours of instruction. And so it's very much like a film set. Turnaround time. In those 8 days, they have to come up with a story, shoot a film, and be done with it by the final Saturday night when we have our community screening that we share.
We're all basically this huge team, and we can't do anything without the one person that's missing or the one person who doesn't want to do it. And so you get this real sense of family that's really enjoyable, and it comforts you.
When we came into this community and to this group of students and said, okay, we're going to make a story, and whatever story we tell has to reflect your community in some way. I added one extra caveat to this particular workshop, and that is I wanted them to talk about immigration in some way that reflects their community.
We're all immigrants, and that we have just as many rights as the others, and we should really learn to respect everyone for who they are and what they do, because everyone provides for a community, everyone adds to it in their own way. And it's really good to recognize those things and give those people the appreciation that they deserve.
We don't promise exhibition beyond the community screening for any of our films. We hope that they're as wonderful as they are and that people like you will see them and want to share them with others. It's really about the process for us, the learning process. And the really cool thing is that these very professional looking films come out of that process.
Toda una noche, mediodía, así fue como llegamos aquí, pero fue difícil, pero no tan malo.
It was a very hard journey. It started in the night of one day, ended at midday of another, so it was just around one day's time. It was really hard.
When I hear immigration, I think of people coming and trying to change their lifestyle and change their culture and become more diverse.
They were treated wrongly and they come for like a better life.
People from other countries and stuff coming here to like America, or not just America, to like other places to do other things.
Immigration to me, in a positive perspective, is wanting to get out of a certain aspect of one's life and leading to a different country or a different community.
My name is Amr Kahuja, and I am from Alberta, Canada. That's where I was born.
I'm Marisol Enriquez.
Mi nombre original es Sonia de la Cruz.
Hi, I'm Arjun Mohandas, ARJUN, MOHANDAS. I'm a physician living and practicing in Luling, Texas since 1998. I am originally from India.
When I think of immigrant, I just think of a person that moves from one place to another. You just a process of moving lives.
The city I lived in India is called Bangalore. It's the Silicon Valley of India. It has a population of close to 10 million. After that, I lived in New York for almost a year. So I'm used to big cities, and I didn't really like the big city atmosphere. We were looking for something a little smaller, a little more rural, and that's why we like Luling. The articles that I read about America portrayed a way of life that seemed to be very fair, very just, that showed that everybody had an equal opportunity, regardless of who you were, what you started from, or who your parents were.
The five of us crossed the border illegally.
Pues agarrar papeles es difícil, y para venirnos tuvimos que venirnos ilegales. Nos venimos todos de ilegales.
I know I had a few difficulties in adjusting to life down here because, one, I was a Canadian I was somebody from completely another country moving down here, and so I didn't salute the Pledge of Allegiance and things like that. I got a lot of ridicule over that, so there was a few troubles in adjusting.
And to the republic for which it stands.
My take on stereotypes and what people, like how people stereotype things, I think it's really ridiculous. It's more something based on ignorance than anything else, because they're basing a whole nation or a whole group of people based on what they think some people do.
When we first came to this country, we came on a visa called the J1 visa. It's an immigrant visa that allows you to work and study in the country. Once you finish your tenure on the J1 visa, you've got to either go back to your original home country, or you've got to work in a medically underserved rural area. People have asked me about the problem of acceptance coming from India, and the answer is no. I think the acceptance issue comes into play when you have a language barrier, which I never really had because all we spoke at home was English in India. I do know 3 other Indian languages, but we never really used those. I spoke to my parents in English. All my friends and I communicated in English. So there really wasn't any acceptance problem.
Never being able to fit in fully, I just always felt as odd kid out because I was so Mexican and I learned English here in pre-K, but it's gone better.
My American dream, or just like mine, but like being an American, is like where we actually, I know this sounds cheesy, but like actually peace with other people. Not always just like fighting and everything else, and everybody just like gets along and stuff.
Trying to make the best that you can out of like what it is that you do.
The American dream, you think of being beautiful and rich, living perfectly without any flaws and stuff like that.
The American dream is living the way you want to, living as great as possible and having everything you want and need.
Living free and being able to speak my mind, maybe get criticized for it, but having the right to just speak it.
Pretty much, I don't think about America, I think about the people in America. We make the dream.
The American dream, I think, is defined by each person differently. For some people, it's academic excellence. For some people, it's financial success. For some people, it's independence. For some people, it's just a different way of life.
My American dream would be to come here, to have a successful life, raise a happy family, and basically just live my life and be happy with it.
All of the older people helped carry us and helped guide us all across. She never felt like she wanted to just give up. It had always been a dream to come over here, so there was nothing that could stop her.
I think I'm somewhere along achieving the dream. Now, I do want to make it clear that I don't believe you can ever achieve a dream. You've got to keep working at it every day. Because if what you did yesterday looks big, you haven't done much today.
He doesn't so far, but I don't know, some songs actually, I like it.
Now a lot of people do accept I'm from Canada. A lot of people think it's neat that I'm from somewhere else.
Oh.
So I have friends around Luling, San Marcos, and different things like that. So I go out and hang out with them a lot. Having friends now, I look back, I realize that we were all kids. We didn't really know what we were talking about at the time. And now that we're older and we're more towards adults, I don't mind that I had to go through that anymore because I realize that we've all grown up. Most of us are friends now.
My wife and I are both Christian. We go to a local church, so we got to know a lot of the people there. But at no point did I ever face any bigotry or anything like that. We also live in right in Luling, actually about 200 feet away from the hospital, and we are extremely close to all our neighbors. And they're extremely protective of us. So no, the answer is I didn't have any issues or any doubts or fears regarding acceptance into Luling.
Pues igual, es lo mismo, simplemente que yo sigo con lo mismo mexicano. Simplemente que de México no podría. Ahorita estoy viendo, puedo decir lo que yo mucho más mejor que si estuviera en México.
She sees herself a lot better off here, but she just tries to keep it with the same customs that she's always had from Mexico. She's happy because both as a woman and as a family, any goals that we or she has set have not gone to waste. She feels like we are not the giving up type of people, so we just keep striving for the future. I plan to go to a culinary school, either here in Texas or I'm thinking New York. And I have the National Guard to look forward to.
When I hear the word immigrant, I think a lot of people have different misgivings about immigrants. They think of people coming from over the borders illegally or things like that, taking jobs, stereotypical ideas towards that. I really believe it is. We're all immigrants. I mean, no matter how far your family goes back into America, there's an immigrated from somewhere.
After they finish watching the movie, I really hope they actually sit up and pay attention to what's going on with the other races and everything outside of just their place. But look at all the other people, look at what they go through or don't have to go through.
I really hope that people get together to look beyond what they see on the surface, really look down, and really get to know people, really get to figure out what people are about.
I think people see us kind of as a small town, but I think we're starting to show that we're more than that.